afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the show, and I'm excited today to have on the Executive Director of Arizona Rural Schools. We are going to meet Dr. Melissa Sadorf in just a moment. She's coming to us live from Arizona, so I'm excited to chat with her today. I'm a proud member of the Education Podcast Network, Voice Ed Radio Canada, wherever you're taking in your podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Leave us a positive comment. And certainly today, jump in the show. There's already a number of live viewers watching. Jump in the chat. Let us know where you're coming to us from. It's always fun to engage with the listeners and the viewers while the show is on. So the sponsor of our show is IXL. If you've been with me a while, you know IXL is a great program that helps serve kids, helps differentiate instruction. Here's a word from IXL.
Hey friends, Andrew Murata here, Surviving and Thriving. And I want to thank today's sponsor for the podcast, IXL. Discover the power of data-driven instruction in your school with IXL. It is the most widely used online learning and teaching platform K through 12. It gives you everything you need to maximize learning, from a comprehensive curriculum to meaningful school-wide data. And IXL's diagnostic is research proven to be a strong predictor of performance on standardized assessments, including NWEA, MAPS, STAR, iLearn, just to name a few. And the best part, everything I just mentioned is all integrated into one platform, so you can simplify your ed tech tools. Visit IXL.com to lead your school towards data-driven excellence today. The link is in the show notes. And again, I want to thank IXL for sponsoring Education, Leadership, and Beyond.
All right. Thank you, IXL. Let's get started. The opening concept of today's podcast is playing more than one position. It's baseball playoff time. Unfortunately, Melissa, the Mets did eliminate your Arizona Cardinals there, or Arizona Diamondbacks. But it's playoff time. And, Pete Rose also passed away last week. And people know Pete Rose is the greatest hitter of all time. He won multiple gold gloves also in different positions. Means he was excellent in different positions. And think about your role as an educator, right? I'm going to talk to Melissa here shortly, a rural educator expert. And they do have to play different positions because they don't have people to fill all the different spots, right? They're helping in the cafeteria. They're driving the bus. They're leading in the schools. The teacher is doing multiple different things there. So it's important as an educator to be versatile, to be adaptable to different things, right? Yes, you want to be an expert as a classroom teacher. You want to be an expert in leadership as the principal, but you got to be able to play some different positions. You got to be able to put on some different uniforms and do some different things, right? To carry the banner for your schools and do some different things. So as you continue during this school year, we're turning the page here, second part of the year. Play multiple positions. Don't be afraid to grab a broom and help sweep up after the cafeteria. Don't be afraid to grab a whistle at dismissal and help direct the traffic, things like that. That can always pitch in. So again, jump in the show. Let us know where you're watching from. I'd love to hear from you today. But enough of me chatting. Let's bring in the star of today's show, the superintendent, the executive director. Welcome, Dr. Melissa Sadorf from Arizona. Welcome.
Thank you. It's fantastic to be here. I'm excited to have some time to have a conversation around what's happening in rural education right now. So.
Absolutely. And it's great to see you, Melissa. We were only able to spend a few minutes together at the conference because you were working, I was speaking, and it was like two ships passing in the night. So I'm glad we can chat here. So Melissa, you just finished your first conference. You're the newly executive director there. You've transitioned from superintendent. Talk to me. How did the conference go from a different lens being the executive director?
Well, it was, like you said, my first conference. I have been to conferences, 32 years of public education. You kind of go to a little bit of conference. But it was very different in terms of, okay, I have to worry about, did the speakers come up on time? Was the IT person ensuring that everything was working in those breakout rooms? Is food happening as it's supposed to happen? So it actually, I am very happy to report, my first conference was a smashing success. No concerns about any weird things happening with AV. Food was all fantastic. Attendees were happy, and so were our sponsors. So I would say that it was a successful launch out of the gate.
Congratulations there again, making it all work. And as somebody who was on the receiving end, you did an excellent job. You communicated with me. We traded a lot of emails, a lot of text messages.
Definitely.
What was your vision of the conference? What were the sessions going to be? The times? You even adjusted that time. You put in some book signing time. You did all of those things that made me as a guest feel comfortable. So good job there.
I'm glad that that worked out for you, because I know that you were a hit with our attendees for sure. They loved your session.
And talk to me about the theme, Melissa, resilient rural. I love the theme. Obviously, you're the director of the Arizona Rural Schools. Talk to me about that theme of the conference.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that there are a lot of challenges no matter where you're teaching and leading in schools now. But in rural education, it's particularly acute in terms of access to resources and support. And so you really have to be resilient in those kinds of environments where you're on the front line, and you have to make sure that you have a solution to a problem that you're encountering one way or the other. And so I think being resilient and knowing that, okay, we're going to get through it. It's a challenge. We're going to problem solve it together. We're going to move through it together and talk about what worked and what didn't work. But coming back the next day and making sure that you've got your game on for your students. And so that resiliency, I think, is really on showcase in a lot of our rural communities, not just in Arizona, but across the country. And the theme really connected to innovation. And being innovative around that resiliency. What can you do to make sure that not only are your students getting the learning that they need, but they're doing it in a fun way, in a meaningful way, in an engaging way, and that your teachers all are on board too. So giving them license to be creative. And how can you support that innovation that's happening? So resilient rural was the theme, and it was ensuring that people had an opportunity to talk about things that were working in their communities and share it with each other. Rural seems to be isolated oftentimes because of geography or space. And so to get a bunch of leaders together from rural communities across the state to share with each other was really important for us to give them that platform and that time to just what's working in your community that I might be able to take that to mine.
Yeah, a lot of collaborating. There was people always together. You had some time in between. But I love it. Resilient really is another way of saying surviving and thriving, right?
It is.
You just keep going and get through those hard times. So kudos there. Formally, Melissa, how do you evaluate? Do you have people do surveys? Do you sit down with your executive team and look back like yes, no? How do you formally evaluate a huge event like you had there?
So yes and yes. Yes, we sent out a survey, and so we'll be following up with that. Right after the conference was over, I took my executive board out to lunch, and we did a hot wash. And for those of you that haven't been in the military, a hot wash is just, hey, let's sit down and talk about what worked and what didn't work and what we want to do different next year. So we had a chance to collaborate together around things that we want to make sure we do again and things we want to change. So yes and yes, surveys and getting the board together. And then we'll also make sure that we reach out to our sponsors and were they happy? Did they get the FaceTime? Did they feel like it was an event worth attending and supporting? So just that human contact, I think, is important too.
The sponsors certainly had enough swag. There was a lot of swag. Yeah, I got the little pencil. Yeah.
Sweet.
Melissa, you just shut the door on a long, successful career as an educator and transitioned right into this position. It was kind of something you were eyeing, you've been involved with rural Arizona for quite some time.
Right.
Talk to me about that transition. What are some things that are similar to your role as a superintendent? What are some things like, whoa, that is totally different than what I used to do?
So I will start by saying that I was a superintendent and an executive director at the same time, because my last year of my superintendency ended on June 30th of this 2024, but I took over as executive director in January. Our previous executive director retired, and so I came on board knowing that this is the direction that I wanted to go in my next phase of my educational career. And so for about 6 months there, I was pulling double duty. It was a little bit crazy. Things that were different now that I have shut the door on my superintendency and I'm doing executive directorship most of my day. I don't have a commute. My commute was an hour and 15 minutes one way.
Wow.
And so not having that daily drive to get to the campus, that's very different. I just got back 2.5 hours every day where I can do other things. And I would also say that not having a daily schedule. I mean, when you have an office job, you tend to have, this is when school starts and this is when it ends, and here are your meetings and all of the things that you got to do. And I have a lot more freedom. So that's different. And it took me a little while to figure out I don't have to get up and be ready to go to the office by 7 o'clock in the morning. I have a little bit of time.
You were up at 5 a.m. this morning checking your email.
Every day at 5 a.m. because I get more done when I'm up early. So
that's right. That's right. That is a secret there. If you're watching the show live, whether you're coming to us from Arizona, here on the East Coast, say hello. Certainly a shout out to our friends in Florida with the weather that's coming their way. Our blessings and our thoughts are there. Hopefully going to be safe. So Melissa, September 1st, or, whenever you normally start on August 15th, like, what'd you do on that first day of school? Like, were you jumping rope? Were you having a second cup of coffee? What'd you do on that first day?
My husband knew that I was probably going to be a little bit disappointed that I wasn't there on the first day of school. So we went on vacation. We took 3 weeks and went down to Mexico and spent it on the beach. Wow. So that's what I was doing on the first day.
Wow.
I was on the beach.
Nothing like having a Corona during the school day.
There you go. Yeah.
Melissa, you look back, a 30-year plus teaching career, 12 as superintendent. You accomplished a lot. You're well respected. What are some things when you look back that you're most proud of?
I would say, as far as the superintendency went, we were able to really build a culture of family. And it had been something that had been strong even before I was there, but to take that vision and move forward with it and to pull new staff members in and have them engage with that kind of family feel, I think was something that I'm very proud of. We stood up a medical clinic. Stanfield Elementary School District it's 600 square miles, so we're geographically large.
Wow.
But there are not a lot of services there. Families, many of whom do not have transportation, really the school was the hub of everything for them. Resources, supports, services. And so not having medical access easily available was something that we knew was a barrier for a lot of our families. So we received a grant. This was 8 years ago that we wrote for and got a grant. It wasn't stood up until this year. So as soon as I left, they had the opening ceremony, but they now have a fully functioning medical clinic that serves the students of the community as well as family members on certain days of the week during office hours. So really proud of that work to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the community's students. And I think that carries over into some of the other work that I'm doing. I teach for Northern Arizona University. I'm part of their Ed Leadership Department and work with principals and superintendents that are being certified. And ensuring that they know that really the focus is students. It's making sure that you're paying attention to their needs. And I think that I've been successful in walking that talk. And so I'm really proud of that.
Nice. That is tremendous about the clinic and literally serving the community there. That's a beautiful story. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a team effort.
Melissa, being the superintendent, you have to make decisions that I say, steps on people's toes. They don't like it. They might feel that they were treated unfairly, or you went in this direction because of A, B, and C, when that's not really the case. Just, it's the situation that, you can't keep everyone happy.
Right.
Talk to me about making decisions that are, I don't want to say controversial, but just more difficult, right? That you're gonna bother or upset somebody. Talk to me about decision making in your role.
Two things come to mind. One, if you are making everybody happy, you're not doing your job. You're just not, because decisions mean that somebody is going to be doing something that they don't necessarily want or need to do. I mean, you've got to make a decision, and sometimes people don't like what they're going to be asked to do. The other thing is that I had when I was first getting into administration, I was taking on an assistant principal's job. And the assistant superintendent came and said, yes, we'd like to offer you the job. And it was at a school where I knew the people, I'd worked with the people that I was going to be an administrator for. And he said, Melissa, you have to understand that when you get there, you need to have friends outside of your work, because you have now stepped over, they call it the dark side. I mean, I don't think it is, but I mean, the point is made that as soon as you get the keys to the building, you are now not their friend, you are their supervisor. And so that's something that I talk about with my NAU students. Make sure you have friends outside of the building, because there are going to, your relationships will change. There are going to be things that are different about those relationships that you previously had. And if you don't believe me, walk into the lounge as the administrator in a building and see what happens when people see that you come in. You stop talking.
You're the supervisor now, yeah?
Yeah, it's different.
The great Todd Whitaker, as a friend and mentor, I always admired Todd. He said you make your decisions based on your best people, right? What is your best people going to say, right? You want to honor and respect them. Not that you're not listening to others, but that was a really guiding point for me in terms of decisions, yeah. How about leadership, Melissa? You've served in all different roles. You're in a rural community. What are some things that you've learned about leadership over the years?
Well, it's about people. And, leading whether you're a principal or you're at the district level or you're the superintendent, your job really is to support the people that are doing the work with students. I always felt that being an administrator for a school or a school district was about ensuring that those teachers that are working with kids had what they need to do the job. And not having that perspective that you're supplemental to the important work that's happening in the classroom with students, I think is missing the boat. And so ensuring that everything that you do is focused on the lens of measure the student. So that's important. But taking care of your people along the way. And so recognizing that they are going to have off days, they are going to need different kinds of supports. It's not one size fits all. And so being very intentional about relationship building is important, making sure that you know them individually as a person, not just an educator that works in your building or your district. Those things are the foundation of everything. We say that to teachers in the classroom, build relationships with your kids. But as leaders, we have to do the same thing with the people that we work with. So,
yeah. And it's that fine line of knowing them, knowing their family, knowing their interests, but you're not necessarily friends. You could be friendly, but you're not necessarily friends.
That's it. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And what do you think of that opening concept, Melissa, about playing multiple positions? You've done that. And as a rural leader, that is something that's part of the job is to be able to do multiple things. What did you think of that?
Spot on. I do everything but ride. I don't drive a bus. I don't have a CDL. I never planned on getting a CDL. But really, it's all hands on deck. And going into a rural community that you're going to be called on to do things other than what your contract is set up for. So not only are you the principal, but you're also maybe the director of special education, and maybe you run some of the grant programs, and maybe you take care of after school. As the superintendent for Stanfield Elementary School District, I also was the business manager, so I did all of the budgeting. I ran all of the federal and state grant programs, and I was the HR director. So, you have a small group of people that have as many responsibilities as a large district. The reports are the same. The expectations for carrying on standards-based instruction are the same. You still have a Department of Education that you're working with. It's just fewer people to do the work. So yeah, you're tapping on people to develop leadership. Distributive leadership is alive and well in rural communities.
Good answer there, Melissa. Yeah. Melissa, it's an exciting time. You're in this new role, leading conferences. You also just wrote a book recently, came out last year. Congratulations there. Yeah, hold that up there. The Resilient Rural Leader. Talk to me about that. You wrote that with ASCD. Congratulations.
Thank you. Pretty excited about this.
Talk to us about the book here.
So when I started out, I went directly from the principalship to the superintendency. And as you heard, it wasn't a typical superintendency. And a lot of things that I was being asked to be responsible for, I had no idea how to do. My husband said, you're going to be responsible for over $5 million in a budget. You can't balance your own checkbook. So, are they sure that they want you?
Have they seen your banking?
Have you seen her checking account? But the thing was, there were not places that I could go to in this kind of format to say, okay, what do I need to be thinking about? How do I need to do task A, B, and C when I'm still trying to figure out how to be a superintendent? So the reason that I wrote the book is I wanted something at the time, and I didn't have it. So I wrote it for new leaders that are coming into these rural communities that may not know all of the things they need to know about being a rural leader, whether it's teacher recruitment and retention, or it's standing up broadband if you're in a rural community and you still don't have access, or it's ensuring that you're being responsive to diverse learners in your community. All of that is in here. And so, yeah, it was a labor of love because I had some opportunities for mentors that I know a lot of people don't have. So this was a way of saying, hey, I get it. And here's at least a way to get started in thinking about what you need to think about.
Awesome. I love it. The concept of it. I like the artwork too. Was that someone you knew who did that? Or?
No, actually, the team at ASCD was really good about, hey, what do you like? And this was like iteration number 5 or 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, what about this? Well, I like that part, but not that part. Okay, what about this? So yeah, it was back and forth for a little while, but I like how we ended up.
Cool. A lot of people ask Dr. Sadorf, how did you write the book, Andrew? How did you do it? So what was your process like? Were you a 5 a.m. I'm writing every day? Were you kind of out at Starbucks? How did it work for you?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I am up at 5 a.m., but I was not writing. I had intended to write every day. I really thought that was the best way to approach it. Knowing that I had a certain number of chapters and all of these things that I wanted to make sure that I touched on. But I ended up finding out more about myself writing this book than I realized about myself as a writer. I am not a little bit at a time. I need to do a brain dump. And so what I ended up doing was spending weekends holed up in my office with the doors closed and the phone away from me, so it wasn't a distraction, so that I could get this book written. And it was just big chunks of time. So that's what I ended up doing.
I like to think of it like a wave. It just builds and you get momentum and then you kind of get used to riding it. There's a lot of momentum there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It took a little while to get the momentum going. It wasn't happening at 5 in the morning.
Yeah. Well, listen, one of the things I've learned, a lot of my buddies, rural leaders, shout out to Casey Holgarth, way out in Baker, Oregon. Eric Nichols out also in rural Oregon there. So many friends and communities I've met out there. And a lot of them, Michael Carter, a lot of them have talked to me about housing. You can recruit a teacher all you want, and then if they like it, great. That's number two. If you can get them to sign the contract, but then where are they going to live, right? Finding housing is a challenge. Is that something that you go into in the book?
Yes, actually it is. And because it is a barrier and it's not just in one place, it seems to be a national concern. Ben Winchester, who is a rural sociologist out of, I'm going to say Minnesota, I think, has done some work around this. And what he's finding is that people are living longer and staying in their houses longer. And that means that there's less available housing in these rural communities anyway. And so with people not moving into their children's home as they enter their golden years or what have you, it is a barrier. Now, what we're doing in Arizona, and I know that it's happening in other places, is being innovative and resilient around housing, which means tiny homes, schools buying properties and leasing them out to their teachers at reduced rates of rent, buying apartment buildings, turning old schools that have been shuttered into housing. So being creative about the potential resources and assets that are already within their community that they might be able to help mitigate that problem around is something that I talk in the book. But you're exactly right. Housing is a huge concern.
It is. And, as someone coming from a small city here in Port Jervis, that's not something we think about. I was fortunate to visit LeGrand, Oregon, George Mendoza, their superintendent. Part of their CTEC program, part of their construction program, they're building the homes. Their kids and their instructors are building the homes. So they bought property and got grant money. So
yeah,
it's cool to see it in action.
Yeah, that's very cool. We've done the same thing here in Arizona. Vail is building tiny homes through their CTE program. Same kind of concept. And I think that that's probably the way that it's going to be done faster to ensure that we're able to retain those teachers.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, it's really authentic. Like, hey, our schools built this home for you.
We want you. We built you a house.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to connect you with some of my buddies there so as part of your podcast there. I know that's some of the work you're doing now. So tell me about your podcast that you run for rural Arizona.
So I started this about 5 or 6 years ago, and it really was a way to tell the story of rural education in Arizona specifically. I used to do it all myself, so figured out how to use Zoom before Zoom was a thing, and got some help with an editing software out of Scotland. It was the only one that I could find at the time.
Wow.
And launched, didn't know what the heck I was doing. And now I have an editing team out of Chattanooga who helps with my all the back office stuff, which is really nice because it frees me up to do the fun stuff, which is talk to people.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's been fun. So, and what I focus on is what's working in rural education. Not in Arizona specifically anymore. I'm the president of the National Rural Education Association. And so through that, I've met a lot of people in different communities across the country and connect with them and invite them on and say, hey, let's talk about what's going on in your community that's working that might inform somebody else. So it's been fun.
Yeah, and I know the national organization has their conference coming up. I think it's in Savannah. Is that right?
It is in Savannah. We're hoping that some of the storms are, I know they're going to impact some of the members that we have that are coming from that part of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in Savannah, Georgia at the end of the month, and 2-day conference October 31st and November 1st, and 700 attendees are scheduled to come and join us, and a
Wow.
lot of rural focused research and presenters and keynotes. So it's always a good time. And you don't have to spend 5 minutes when you meet somebody talking about this is what rural is.
You're going from hot to humid hot.
Yeah. My hair is going to do fun things. It'll be awesome.
It's a dry heat.
This is definitely a dry heat. We are still over 100 degrees in October. It's ridiculous.
It was hot when I was out there for sure. Yeah, it was awesome. Melissa, school leader, grandma, a wife, doctorate, or superintendent, and you're also a professor. You mentioned about earlier teaching at Northern Arizona University.
Yep.
Again, future leaders. You mentioned about not being friends, right, with your school. But what are some other things that you really value that you share with these younger administrators to prepare them for life of school leadership?
Right. Well, I think that, again, I'll just reiterate, it's definitely about relationships and relationship building as a leader when you get on campus, and making sure that you are setting a culture and a climate of positivity, of can do, of you don't always have to have the answer right now. Sometimes it's okay to get back to people. Connecting with others in your field, so creating a network of support, that you pick up the phone, and when you have something on your desk that's like, I just don't even know how to deal with this, you've got somebody that you can call, so you don't always have to have the answer right then. And then being a lifelong learner, always keeping curious. What else can I do in this situation? How else can I make it better? What else can I do to grow my school into an even better iteration of itself? So I think just knowing that you keep moving forward and you keep getting better, and just always asking that question, what next? What next?
There's that resiliency. And you're modeling that in what you're doing in terms of the podcast, in terms of bringing people together in the conference. So good for you. And
thanks.
Your students are blessed to have you having a lifetime of the school leadership that you've done. So congratulations.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Cool. Melissa, anything else you wanted to share that I did not ask you?
Well, no, not really. I think we covered it all. 32 years of public education in 30 minutes or less.
Speed version. There's a lot of knowledge there. I know you do a lot of mentoring. I know you do a lot of coaching, and it's nice to be able to give back to the future of education for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, let's get to rapid fire. I know there's no Diamondbacks game tonight, but hey, the Mets are playing tonight, so we got to get it.
All right, we'll take it when we can, right?
That was a big joke in the room. I don't know if you were there. And I said that. The guy yelled out, "We hate the Mets." It was really funny. Got a big laugh. Yeah. So, all right, let's get to it. This is rapid fire. Quick answers. First thing that comes to mind. Here we go. Last book you read.
The Power of Moments.
Last movie you saw.
Wild Robot with my grandson.
Ooh. Last concert you went to.
Barnaby and the Butchers. A friend of mine plays in it. It's a local band here in Tucson.
Ooh. Favorite dish.
Red beans and rice.
Favorite place to travel.
Sayulita, Mexico.
You like Mexico. You grew up on the Mexican border, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, we go down all the time. We have a place in Rocky Point, a little condo on the beach, but we've been actually going further south. Puerto Vallarta area is where we've been going. So love it.
Your favorite karaoke song?
Crazy, Patsy Cline.
Ooh, nice. That's a hard song to sing.
Well, I didn't say I sang it well. I said I sang it.
I saw some beautiful cacti out there. Give me something desirable about a cactus.
They are a source of food and shelter and clothing for birds and wildlife and people.
Ah.
So they actually give back.
So the food, obviously, they're taking the spikes out of it. And what do they do? It's like a vegetable?
Prickly pear. Have you ever heard of the prickly pear? And you make jelly and candy and syrup out of the prickly pear cactus.
Okay.
Ocotillo branches can be building materials for a fence or a roof of a palapa.
You sound like a rural educator who's very versatile. It's about to get cold here on the East Coast. How do you deal with the heat? You're a heat hack.
Get in the pool.
Pool.
Or you go inside. Get in the shade.
Your summers are like our winters, really.
Well, how cold do you get?
Oh, it's cold. I mean, single digits. We're a good couple months, single digits.
Yeah. If it's under 75, I'm in a jacket. Sorry, I'm not one for cold.
If you weren't in education, what field would you be in?
I loved art history. That was my minor, and so I'd probably be an archaeologist.
Fill in the blank. Arizona is
Amazingly beautiful.
It is. That drive from I saw your flag. I saw the sun setting there. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, we have great sunsets.
Fill in the blank. At 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, I feel
ready to go. I've been up for 3 hours.
That's right. A pet peeve of yours is?
People chewing with their mouth open. Is that you? You do it?
I'm working on it. My wife says I'm always talking.
That's awesome.
I do. Hey, listen, I use mouth tape, though, when I go to sleep. So I'm working on keeping my mouth shut.
Let me know how that works.
Yes,
I get it from my husband.
Something about Melissa Sadorf that people do not know about.
Ooh, I was a bodybuilder in my 30s.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And you did all that posing and all that stuff?
I did.
You didn't send those pictures for the podcast. We're gonna have to push those out.
Nobody needs to see
They'll be
them.
Googling them now. One thing you're curious about.
One thing I'm curious about is how to make bread, yeast bread. I haven't mastered it yet.
You got some time now to mess with it.
Yep.
Cool. Melissa, I put the link to the book in the show notes. I put the link to the Arizona Rural Schools Conference, the website there for Arizona Rural Schools. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn at Bella Consultants. That's my consulting company. I have a website, bellaconsultants.com.
We'll add that.
Yeah, or they can find me on Twitter at Dr._Sadorf, or they can find me on the ARSA webpage, azruralschools.org, and my email's on that.
Very responsive to her email as well, certainly accessible there. So I'll have to add that, the consulting site there. So, Melissa, I love quotes. How about a quote you can wrap us up with?
So I really love Goethe. And the quote is, whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it.
Say that one more time. That was beautiful.
Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it.
Wow. Well done, Dr. Sadorf. This was fun. Melissa Sadorf, everyone from Arizona.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be able to talk with you. 32 years and 30 minutes or less. I love it.
Hold up the book one more time. The Resilient Rural Leader.
Resilient Rural Leader.
Check it out. You can look, just Google it. It'll come up there. Great resource, not only for rural leaders, but educators everywhere. So that's Melissa's first book. And I know you got another one brewing.
I do. It's right here. I got to get it on paper.
It's percolating.
It's percolating.
Got a half a cup. All right. We are going to sign off here on the podcast. This was fun, Melissa. Thank you for your time, and certainly good luck at the national conference coming up here. And good luck with Arizona Rural Schools.
Appreciate it, Andrew. Thank you.
All right, you stay on the line a second. We are going to sign off here on the podcast. If I can help you with anything, don't hesitate to reach out at Andrew Marotta21 on Twitter. And my email is andrewmarottallc@gmail.com. Keep surviving and thriving, friends. Keep rolling.